you were to walk out this door here today, in any direction that you walked, you'd find a program that's directly connected to the American Indian movement. If you walk down the street here 3 blocks to the corner of Cedar Avenue in Franklin, you would see a building up on the hill called the American Indian OIC, Opportunities Industrialization Center. I'm one of the founders of that particular program. We've been there now for 24 years. We developed an arm of that up in Bemidji and one in Mille Lacs. We had one at Fond du Lac at one time. And over the past 25 years, we have trained over 30,000 Native people here in this community. We've taken over 26,000 right off on welfare rolls and put them on payrolls. If you walked out of this building and went about 6 blocks down and turned right on Park Avenue, 3 blocks away, you'd run into a program called the Legal Rights Center, which was formed by the American Indian movement. Myself, my wife, a young black couple from North Minneapolis, one of the top law firms in the country, a guy by the name of Dorsey firm, Peter Dorsey, and a civil rights attorney by the name of Douglas Hall. Both the Native American community, American Indian community, and the Legal Rights Center sat down together to put this program together. We were concerned about parental determination, or what I call termination of rights cases. All of our focus was to keep our families together, to keep our children, our nephews and nieces together as one. If they were going to be adopted out in foster care, that they would keep that unit together and not separate. And one might end up in Utah, California, and locally. One might be a Lutheran and a Methodist or a Mormon, never to see one another again. That was the main focus of the Legal Rights Center, and still is today. To date, we just registered our 75,000th case. We helped craft the American Indian Child Welfare Act. It was crafted by the Legal Rights Center. 75,000 cases we have represented. We created survival school systems for our children, where they learn about their culture, learn about their tradition. And that school lasted for 36 years here in our community. And today on the north side and up on Bloomington Avenue down here at the center school, and all the tribes in the state of Minnesota have their own culturally based schools today, parental control. Even though we have the highest dropout rate in the nation, for 35 years, Heart of the Earth itself graduated more Indian students than the whole Minneapolis public school system put together, as far as Indian people are concerned. These are the programs that have been created by the American Indian movement and people that believed in those efforts. If you went down here on Cedar Avenue, 4 blocks away, and walked up to 24th Street, you'd see one of the first urban Indian housing programs in the nation. 212 units. 212 units was built in the winter time. All of the unit hooked up to one little 6-inch drainage line. No insulation, nothing with it. Nothing came with it like every other house should be built. No inspection. And a year and a half later, they found themselves $150,000 in arrears on rent collection. The people would no longer pay their rent, because if everybody flushed their toilet at the same time, the water backed up in their basements. That project was advocated by the American Indian movement when it became in trouble. Under the sponsorship of the Minnesota Council of Churches, Housing and Urban Development stepped in and told them that they had to find another sponsor. Otherwise, they're going to put it up for a sheriff's sale and foreclose on it. And this community had the choice of selecting the Catholic Archdiocese, the Minnesota Council of Churches, or the American Indian Movement. And they selected the American Indian Movement. I used to travel around the country back in those days, and I closed off a lot of my talks. I would say, we're the landlords and we're the caretakers of this country, and it's the end of the month and the rent is due. I received a call from Dennis Banks that said that I just now inherited a 212-unit housing complex in the city of Minneapolis. I almost fell over it. But we went to war. The local HUD, Housing Urban Development Office right here in Minneapolis, joined us in that struggle. The City Council joined us in that struggle. They never approved any of our budgets, never gave us money to operate. They want us to go down the tube. So we withheld all of our mortgage payments for 2.5 years, and we sunk all the money back into the project itself. About 2.5 years later, I was opening up my mail. I saw a special delivery letter. I opened it up, there was some HUD. They said we now owe them $4.5 million. $4.5 million. We didn't come up with that money within 10 days. It was going into a sheriff's sale. I called a lawyer and he said he already read that it's been put up for sale. And based on the promise, the commitment that HUD made us, the $2.5 million that we asked to rehab the project, put the insulation in and take care of all the needs, they never gave us a penny. We filed a lawsuit and battled with them, fought with them for 6 solid years. And the judge during that battle ordered HUD to rehab the housing, spending $35,000 per unit. Over $500,000 on the cosmetic, the lawns and the trees and the bushes and cedar bushes that are there today. And finally, a man by the name of Henry Cisneros, who I met several years ago in Albuquerque doing an OIC National Convention, became the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. And I went to visit him, talked to him, told him what happened, the history. And I said the NAACP themselves even got involved and said that Indian people couldn't have their own housing. It was discriminatory. And Henry Cisneros said, it's written into our treaties. If anybody deserves Indian housing, it's Native people. It's guaranteed by treaty. What do you want me to do? I want you to wipe out that $4.5 million that we owe you and turn Little Earth over to the Indian community. And he did it. After years of battle in the courts and struggle, Henry Cisneros made a commitment to put a stop to that foreclosure proceeding. This young man in this audience here is going to be one of the presenters today. Bill Ziegler is doing wonders. Not only continuing to rehab that housing, but also buying up land today for low-income urban Indian housing. And the story goes on and on. You can go down here about 3 blocks into the new shopping area. You'll see a place called the Native American Community Clinic. I'm one of the founders of that, along with other interested people here in the community. In 5 years now, we've had over 46,000 patients in that complex. And over a few blocks away from there is a Native American Indian Health Board. Another program that was created and developed by the American Indian Movement, because we saw our people dying in the hallways of Hennepin County General Hospital and the University of Minnesota, and we wanted to do something to help them. And we knew that we could not depend on the government anymore, that we ourselves had to take control over our lives. So if it's militant, if it's radical, to do those kinds of things, I guess I'm one of the most militant people in the world today. But there are hundreds and thousands here in this community that are part of that struggle.